From the outside, it looks like you've got it all together. The achievements are real, the recognition is real, and people say things to you like, I don't know how you do it all. And you smile and say, thank you, and sort of, you mean it. Then there's that voice, the quiet one, the one that shows up right after the win, right in the middle of the applause, and it whispers, if they only knew. If they knew what I'm really like, how unsure I am, how much I'm guessing, they'd know I don't belong here. If that voice sounds familiar, I want you to hear something clearly. You are not a fraud. You're a capable person, but you're carrying no lie. And today, we're going to deal with that lie. Welcome back to Relentless Rebound. I'm psychologist Dr. Bev Smallwood, and I've spent more than 40 years as a psychologist sitting with people who, by every external measure, they're succeeding, but they privately feel like they're one conversation away from being found out. There's a name for this, and a lot of people call it imposter syndrome. It's that gap between the evidence on the outside and the belief on the inside. The world says, you're good at this. And something inside you says, they're wrong. I'd better not let them figure it out. So here's what I want you to know before we go one step further. That feeling is common. You're not by yourself. And it's not a character flaw. And it doesn't have to run your life. So let's talk about 3 things that you can do when you're feeling like an imposter. Here's the first thing. Name that voice in your head, because I don't think it's actually yours. When I ask people to listen closely to their inner critic, to really pay attention to what it's saying and how it says it, something interesting happens. They start to recognize it, that tone or the phrasing. You'll never make it. Who do you think you are? That's not good enough. You're not good enough. Often, that's not the voice of your own honest judgment. It's an echo, a teacher, a coach, a parent, or someone from a long time ago whose words landed hard and they stayed. Maybe you were like 9 years old or 15, and you've been carrying their sentence ever since, and you're mistaking it for the truth. So here's the first move. Name it. Literally. When that voice starts up, I want you to say out loud, if you can, that's not the truth. That's the voice of the person who told me I wasn't enough. So here's what naming it does. It strips off the disguise. As long as that voice gets to pose as your voice, as the facts, it has authority that it never earned. And the moment you name where it came from, it goes back to being what it always was. One person's opinion, spoken a long time ago, and you are allowed to disagree with it. You're not obligated to keep believing something just because you believed it for a long time. Here's the second thing I want you to do. Put that feeling on trial. Because, look, feelings are not facts. This is so important. The feeling of being a fraud is not evidence that you're a fraud. It's just a feeling. And it's a particularly tricky one because imposter syndrome has a built-in trap. When something goes well, you explain it away. It was luck. It was timing. They were just being nice. Anyone could have done it. You see what's happening here? You've set up a system where good evidence never counts. The wins get discounted and the doubts get filed as proof. Of course, you feel like an imposter. You've been throwing out every piece of evidence to the contrary. So, we're going to stop doing that, okay? We're going to put the feeling on trial and actually look at the evidence. And we're not talking about giving yourself a vague pep talk. I'm talking about specifics. What have you actually done? What have you learned? What did it take to get you where you are? And when someone trusted you with something, what did they see? So write it down if you need to. In fact, I like for you to write it down. And then ask yourself the question. It's a question I ask my clients a lot. If a friend you respected described this exact situation to you, would you call them a fraud? Or would you tell them the truth about what you see? So give yourself that same honesty that you'd give that friend. And there's a deeper layer here, and I'd be negligent if I didn't call it out. So much of the imposter syndrome runs on a belief that your worth is something you have to manufacture, that you're only as valuable as your last performance, and the proving never ends. I don't believe that's true. I believe your worth was never something you produced, which means it's not something you can lose on a bad day. And for me, that's grounded in my faith. I believe every person is made and loved by God and that worth is given, not earned. Well, wherever you are with that, I want you to sit with this possibility. You were valuable before the achievements, and you'll be valuable after them. The performance was never holding your worth up in the first place. That's the truth that the feeling doesn't want you to consider. And here's the third: bring it into light. Imposter feelings grow best in the dark, in secrecy. The whole experience is built around hiding. Don't let them see, don't let them know. And that hiding is exhausting. And you know what? I've noticed that hiding always seems to carry shame with it. It also keeps you convinced that you're the only one. Well, look, you're not the only one, but you'll never find that out as long as you keep it a secret. So tell someone, one trusted person, a mentor, a friend, a counselor, someone safe. Say the words out loud. Sometimes I feel like I'm fooling everyone. I promise you, what comes back is almost never, yes, I always suspected. What comes back is usually, oh, you feel that way? I thought it was just me. And then this is the part that rewires your brain. Keep showing up. Do the work while the feeling is still there. Don't wait until you feel fully qualified, fully confident, fully ready, because that day may never arrive on schedule. Courage was never the absence of doubt. Courage is doing the thing while the doubt is still talking. Every single time you do that, every time you show up and contribute and don't get found out because there was nothing to find, you're giving your brain new evidence. You're teaching it a new pattern. The old voice doesn't necessarily vanish, but it gets quieter and it loses the steering wheel. Now, before I share a final truth with you, please let me remind you to like this video and hit subscribe. I don't want you to miss a single edition of Relentless Rebound. So let's bring it home. 3 things when you feel like an imposter. Name the voice is an echo, not a verdict. Put the feeling on trial, because feelings aren't facts and your worth was never up for a performance review. And bring it into the light. Say it out loud. and keep showing up anyway. Now, finally, hear this. That voice may not disappear completely, but this has to be true from this day forward. It doesn't get to drive. It can ride along, maybe muttering in the back seat if it insists, but you're the ones with the hands on the wheel. You belong here, not because you've been flawless, but because you've been faithful to show up and do the work. And the person who does that work is not an imposter. That's just you being who you actually are. So until we meet again right here, my friend, I remind you, keep going, keep growing, and you'll come out stronger on the other side. See you in the next video.